Rev up your engines!
GM is slicing the price of their electric car, the Bolt. Even though the price of the commodity is going on, the 2023 Bolt is going to be the cheapest electric car you can buy in the United States. $26,595 is the price of the cheapest one that they have. Yeah, they are cheaper made vehicles. There's no arguing that. Part of it is they have to. They have such a bad reputation. They had to recall them all, replace all the batteries, so they got a real stinking reputation. They're kind of like the Ford Edsel of electric cars. So if they want to sell them, I think they really have to lower the price. They're praising their new Ultium battery they're going to put in all their new electric vehicles, right? Well, guess what? The Bolt doesn't have the Ultium battery technology either. It's old technology. So it's lower price, but it's lower technology too. Now, the Bolt's been in production since 2016, so like I said, it's got the old battery technology. And they had to replace them all free because they all crapped out. Some of them started on fire. You know, they weren't the greatest thing. They got a very bad taste in people's mouths. So it's kind of interesting. They actually lowered the price quite a bit, which makes sense because in the long run, people don't want to spend money, they'll buy the cheapest one that's out there. So maybe it'll work and they'll sell them, but realize it is old technology. This isn't the new Ultium battery. And who knows, after all, which battery technology is going to win. There's so many different ones out there. It'd make your head spin. Just need help, 321 says. Should I buy a new Kia Rio 2022? Do you recommend me getting a new Kia? I wouldn't. New cars, to begin with, it's a ripoff. They don't last nearly as long as Hondas and Toyotas by any stretch of the imagination. The transmissions go bad. They've recalled so many of them. Do a little history of the recall of them. You're tight of funds, and that's the cheapest car you can find. You're buying it new, and you're happy with getting like 80 or 100,000 miles out of a car relatively trouble-free. It can be okay. But here's the thing. The reason people bought them is because they were a lot cheaper than the Toyotas and Hondas. But the last time I priced, when you find equivalent Kias and equivalent Hondas and Toyotas, sometimes the price is less than $1,000 differential. And for that small amount of money buying a whole car, go out and get a Toyota or Honda. They're much better made vehicles. Reverse the situation and say you're buying a used one. Well, you can get a used Kia sometimes half the price you'll pay for a used Toyota or a used Honda. In which case, if it was a low mileage one, maybe that's not a bad deal. But buying a new one, price around, you're probably fine. For a little bit more, you can get a Toyota or a Honda, which is a much better made vehicle. But if times are really tight and you get the best deal on a Kia and you're happy with 80, 100,000 miles without too many problems, they can be okay cars. Jalen's Well says, at what point can a car no longer be a daily driver when it comes to age? Can you drive a 98 Mustang with 150,000 miles as a daily example? Depends what shape it's on. Who's driven it? Has it been maintained? Those engines can last quite some time if you change the oil. I've seen them with a couple 100,000 miles, but those are conservative older drivers, middle-aged or older drivers. If they're kids, they're probably all worn out. What you do with a daily driver is take an overall perspective of the car. Does it burn oil? Does it lose coolant? Is the engine wearing out? Does it shift fine? If it does, you got it, you own it. Why not just keep driving it? It's not going to go for much if you sell the thing. So you might as well take care of it and keep driving it along. And unless you're really nuts about the car and you want to spend that kind of money having things repaired, then it's time to get another car. But I mean, as long as it's drivable, runs okay and shifts okay, my advice is keep, especially in today's market. Because soon, there's probably going to be a recession. The interest rates are going up. The prices of stuff is going to start dropping like a stone. It's just a matter of time. Now, who can say when the recession is coming and when the interest rates will get high enough to really affect prices? But I can guarantee you one thing. It's coming. The economy is set for the stock market is a giant bloated balloon and it's going to burst at some point in time like it always does. Then it goes down. Then people buy it, it goes up, and then it gets too big and then it goes down. Well, we're near the top, so just wait. Wait on getting another car if you can. Georgia said, Scotty, there was a time when there was a break-in procedure after installing new brake rotors and pads. Doesn't seem to be the case. What's your advice? Is glazing still an issue? Well, it's still a good idea to not do aggressive braking the first couple 100 miles unless you have to, because you got a rotor that's brand new and brake pads that are brand new, and they got to seat in a little. Now, the materials are better, especially if you have ceramic brake pads. They seat in much faster. The old ones, the asbestos could take a little, especially the metallic brake pads, they had to seat in a little. But if you got ceramic brake pads, they don't have the glazing problems with it. But as anything, it's a good idea to break it in for one big reason. Okay, I do myself, so I don't care. I'm a mechanic. A lot of times, you can't really trust the work people have done, so you want to test it out a little before you do any aggressive braking. I've had people bring me vehicles that had brake jobs done at chain shops, and I say, I hear this noise after a brake job. I'm looking, the caliper's not even bolted on tight. Pieces are missing, so you want to be a little cautious in the beginning anyway. Casey DeShurance says, Scotty, love your channel. Are Chinese motorcycles any good compared to Japanese? I was looking at Chinese builds. The Japanese make the best motorcycles in the world. They are insane. They're like the ninja warriors of motorcycle. Coincidentally, the Kawasaki's call them ninja motorcycles, right? You can rev them up. You can throttle the heck out of the things. Now, I'm assuming they make them better than they used to, but I would still be relatively leery about Chinese motorcycles because the problem with stuff in China, they make some good stuff and they make a lot of horrible stuff too. Here's the real problem is I've known people who've bought them. Then when they broke, they couldn't get parts for them in the United States. If there's no dealers here that sell them, good luck getting parts when the stupid things break. That is a big, big deal. Now, the Chinese seem to be making stuff a lot better than they used to, but they're getting into electric stuff. They make a lot of electric scooters and stuff. I got an electric Chinese scooter. I have fun riding around. Now, it's got a limited range. I think the thing might go 28 miles with me on it, driving in the hills of Rhode Island, but you can't drive them all that far. As for the regular motorcycles, I'd still kind of hold back myself. They have a history of junk and a history of you can't get parts of the things when they do break. Jeremiah Gaming says, Scotty, should I use stop leak on a 2016 Land Rover Discovery radiator? Depends where it's leaking. Land Rover parts cost a fortune, and if you do have to replace the radiator, don't go to Land Rover. There's a million places selling aftermarket radiators. They work perfectly fine because they're just made out of aluminum cooling and plastic tanks that are crimped on. Crimp. They're simple to make. They're cheap to make. Any factory can make them. Let's say you've got a leak in the aluminum part. Certainly use leak sealer. It can work quite well. If the plastic top or bottom tank are cracked and leaking, don't waste your time. It's leaking because the plastic is all old and hard and cracked, and it will soon leak out of another hole, and it's not safe to drive. You price the cost of a Land Rover engine, 8-10 grand or more, versus buying an aftermarket radiator that you can get for a couple $100. I would change the radiator out if the plastic tanks are brittle and leaking, because they're on their last legs anyway. Robert says, Scotty, I got a 153,000 mile 2016 Hyundai Veloster Turbo. Burning oil 1 to 2 quarts every 10 to 12 days. I pulled over and it had 1, 2, 3 misfire. Had to start it again and then it ran fine. What are your thoughts? Well, it's burning that much oil. That engine is wearing out. Get rid of it. Hey, maybe Carvana is still in existence. They're overpaying for cars. Quick, go there and try to sell it to them and get rid of the thing. It's going to need an engine. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's burning that much oil. And 153K on a turbo. I'm amazed that the Korean engine still is there. Maybe the previous owner replaced it. Who knows? There's not much you can do other than replace it or just get rid of the thing. It's cost a lot of money to rebuild them right. I wouldn't go that far. I'd just get rid of the thing, get something better. Most guys don't know how to rebuild them, and if they do it right, it's going to cost thousands and thousands. It's not worth doing. Hush Bunny said, look at a 2022 Jeep Rubicon 4-cylinder turbo. Thoughts? It's 26 miles a gallon. Yeah, if you drive like a turtle. Turbos ram more air in. Okay, theoretically, you get better gas mileage. Most people, they step on it, the turbo spools up, they rev the engine real high. I am not a Jeep fan by any stretch of the imagination. But a month ago, a guy brought me one of those Rubicons that had the diesel engine in it. Now, I loved it. It was a nice vehicle. Now, I did pay like 60-something grand for the thing, and I warned him. I said, that is an Italian-made diesel engine. He said, yes, I know. Let's hope the third generation lasts longer. But hoping that Italian things last longer often does not work all that well. Be that as may. He said, yeah, I bought the 120,000 mile 7-year warranty, and I'll never drive that many miles, he said. So I said, great, if it does blow, they'll have to fix it free. But I would not trust an Italian diesel engine as far as I could throw it, and they're heavy. I couldn't throw them very far. Maybe their generation 3 will be better, but 1 and 2 weren't too hot, and I don't hold my breath when it comes to Italian quality, let me tell you. Uriel says, I got a Honda Odyssey with P1456. I already changed the gas cap. What's next? You can have any leak in the evap system. Could be anywhere. Check for loose vacuum hoses, blah, 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 everything else. From my experience of those things, if it's not the gas cap, the most common thing is the evap canister vent valve. They go bad and they stick open and you get a leak. So if you want a wild and crazy guess, try a new evap canister vent valve. Now, some of you can buy just a valve. Some of you got to buy the whole canister. The canisters cost a fortune, so if that's the case, go to a junkyard and buy a used assembly, because they don't go out all that often. So you could try a used one. If it's going to cost $300-400 for a new one, you might want to go to a junkyard, try a used one, and see if that's what the problem is. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.